I'm here with Chike Aguh, the Senior Advisor to the Project on Workforce at Harvard University. Chike, thanks for sitting down with me.
Thanks for having me.
So, future of work, that's what we're here to talk about, which we always talk about. AI seems to be still the buzz phrase, and it's going to start impacting everything even more in 2025. So how do you see AI playing into the workforce right now?
I think really the conversation that we need to have is from when I used to be in industry, which was how do we do more with less, meaning more revenue with usually less people? How do we move to a paradigm of a lot more with a lot more, meaning a lot more impact, a lot more revenue, with a second a lot more, which is this combination of humans and AI versus humans being replaced by AI. That is really where the revenue, the impact, and the golden goose is. And the quicker we shift to that format, the quicker that all of us benefit. So that's really is the question of how do we make sure that workers are prepared to use AI? One. Two, how do we make sure that AI is prepared to make the most of the productivity of workers? And thirdly, how do we make sure that firms in the economy are intelligently applying AI and the people that it works with to get the most benefit from both? That is what we have to do, and it is easier said than done, but that's, I believe, the work. And by the way, we talked about how AI is still the buzz, but it won't be the only thing. There will be other technologies that are coming, some of which we know of, like quantum computing, some of which we can't foresee yet. And the playbook that we put in now for AI will apply those technologies and the people that they will affect later. So it's important that we get this right, not just for AI's sake and right now, but for these other technologies in the future's sake.
And that's a really good point, that there's other technology out there, and there always has been shifts in technology, and they've always changed the way people work.
Absolutely.
Is there anything unique about the moment that we are in?
I think a couple things are different this time. One is really important thing to say about AI, which is unusual compared to other technologies like the internet or electricity or telephony. This is the first kind of massive technology at scale, which didn't come out of government research. It actually came purely out of the private sector. That is unusual because in some ways everyone's been caught flat-footed, not simply kind of us as normal consumers. So I think that's one. I think secondly, if you look at these prior technologies, particularly things around automation, the internet, the people who generally were the most affected, or in some ways were at the most risk, were those who were quote unquote at the bottom of the job ladder. These were jobs that generally had a lot of routine tasks and really depended on physical labor. You think about AI currently, AI is actually not good at those two things. AI is not good at replicating. You think about like robots, if you think about autonomous vehicles, it's not good at replicating human motor function. It's not good at necessarily carrying big, heavy things yet. But what's interesting is that in some ways, the people who are being affected most right now are in this middle part. These are people who read and write for a living, which actually generative AI is more than capable at in many, many instances. Usually, if you look at the history, technologies generally create more jobs than they destroy. The ATM example is one that people use a lot. It was believed back in the 70s when we had ATMs, there'd be no more bank tellers. Now we have more than we had before. That same assumption cannot be made with AI. The way I say it is the future of AI and its impact on workers is up to us. There are ways that we could, in some ways, short-sightedly implement AI that produce marginally more revenue and impact, but really badly impact the workers. But there's also a future, which is the one that I want, which is where we create a lot more impact, a lot more revenue, and the people are better off than they were before. And that's going to require coordination. It's going to require foresight. It's going to require resilience. And it's going to require, in some ways, us all getting on the same page in a way that we usually don't when these technologies work out. And again, it's where I spend a lot of my time. And I think it's why I've had to be here at the whole global forum to think about how we do that across entrepreneurs, workers, policymakers, people who have capital to make that happen.
The impact on the worker is very important. And as you said, we need to figure out how do employers implement it where it's not just going to wipe out a whole class of worker, right? So what can an employer do to make this a more seamless transition?
Seamless is probably not possible because no technology of this scale, was electricity seamless, was telephony seamless, was the internet seamless? No. But the question is, how do we get to a place in the end where everyone gets what they need, where employers can fulfill their obligations to their customers, where workers can have the future that they want for themselves and for their children, and the economy is better off. The way I like to say it is, how do we make sure the American economy is better, but also every American within it is also better off? So I'd say a couple things. I think one, for employers, start something simple soon. Start to apply AI to parts of your business that actually where it can make a difference. And use it with an eye toward how do I take something mundane and routine off the mind of a worker? Not so that I can get rid of the worker, so I can free up that space to do things that are far more intuitive.
And finally, here we are, we're at the Hope Global Forum.
Absolutely.
And economic mobility and access to opportunity is very important. And when we talk about the future of work, we don't want to leave anybody behind. We want to lift up those workers that might have not had opportunity before. How do we make sure that they are not left out? They explore it, not just the employers doing it. How about the workers?
It's the same advice I give the employer, I give the worker. Start to use these tools now in your life. ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, free versions, just try it out. Because what's interesting about these technologies, unlike many others where the person who made them is 100% sure of what it can do and its capabilities, for AI, even the people who made it are surprised sometimes at what it does. So really, it's incumbent upon you and your exploration and your innovation to figure out what you can do. And you want to be able to show up to an employer and say, look at what I can do with this tool. One of the things that I think of as really powerful is if you look at the American economy, you look at the American workforce, right now it's kind of staying the same size. And we have more jobs open in America than we have people looking. In my home state of Maryland, 2 jobs open for every 1 person looking. What that tells me is that we're actually going to need to hire every person that we can in communities that have been left behind for a long time. And even after we do that, we will need all the technologies like AI to make them as productive as possible because we still won't have enough. That is the actual future. We get every person off the economic sideline, and then we use technology and practice and tools to make them as productive as possible so that the American economy can be what it was in the last century, the economic engine of the world.
Thank you, Chike.
Thank you for having me.